All right, so let's go ahead and go over the next part here. Now, I'm looking at the same demand and cost function that we used to create the table, right? Does everybody understand that? So, okay, so we learned a little bit earlier that, or we use these functions right here, demand and cost, right? So we made the table, and that would take a while, especially if you had what, hundreds or thousands of different data items, right? But if we've got the equations, we don't need to do it. So a few things about it. From the equation, what is the fixed cost of selling lawn services based upon the cost function? Well, if you look at the cost function, when quantity changes, it's multiplied by 20. So every time quantity changes, the cost is going to go up. But the 100 is always there. So that's what you call the constant, right? It's like the y equals mx plus b. That's like the y-intercept. So the fixed cost is just a constant number there, the number that's not multiplied by quantity. Okay. What does each additional lawn cost her? Well, that is the number that's multiplied by the Q every time she does another lawn, a quantity of lawns. So that's just going to be the 20. So that comes directly from this. All right. Any questions about that? All right. So now we're going to get into the functions that we can take or derive from these demand and cost functions. The first is a revenue function. Now, what we know is the demand function will give us a combination of quantity and price. So like, for example, if I wanted to say, well, what price would sell me? Like if I wanted to make, if I was, I wanted to sell a quantity of 20 lawns, what price would bring me in 20 lawns, right? 20 lawns. It gives you the relationship. But if we're looking for revenue, you got to remember is going to be the price of something times the quantity of it, right? So this first demand equation gives me the price, right? But not the quantity. So basically the first one is going to be the price, -1Q plus 50. Okay, so let's write that out and put it in parentheses so we can kind of distinguish it. That whole thing, that thing right there in parentheses is equal to just the price based upon the Q. But the price is not the revenue. It's the price times the number we sell. That's that is the revenue. So that's actually we're gonna have to multiply whatever that price is back against the Q, because again, it's price times quantity, okay? So that right there would be your marginal revenue. So we can put like revenue as a function of quantity maybe. Now, there's two ways to do this, and I think you may have seen this in the answer choices. You got to be prepared to see it like this, price times quantity, and in a lot of cases, it is going to be simplified, meaning you take that Q and you distribute it. So we're going to do a little bit of algebra here. We're going to take that Q and we're going to distribute it over the first term and then the second term. So Q times -1Q is what, guys? It's -1Q squared, because now we're multiplying Q times Q, right? So I think the answers are going to be in that form. They're going to be distributed or simplified form. And then we're going to take that Q and also multiply it by the 50. Okay? So that, and I'm just putting, usually it's RQ is equal to something, but because I'm running out of room, I put it there. Okay. So that right there is your revenue function. Your final revenue function. Oh, not just 50, my bad. 50Q, I'm sorry. 50Q. So maybe I'll write it back up here. So again, I'm going to make this bigger and then make this over here. So it's going to be -Q squared plus 50Q, and I should put revenue as a function of Q equals. Hope you guys can read that. I'm going to write it in red up here just so you can see it. Revenue as a function of quantity equals Q squared plus 50Q. Okay, and again, how did I get that? We'll start by realizing that revenue is price times quantity. Price is -1Q50. That came from that demand function. That's all it is. It came from that demand function. It's covered up now. And then just times Q. That's all it is. You guys got that one? All right, profit function. Well, what is profit going to be? Okay, I'm going to clear this. I'm going to clear all this stuff off so I have room to write. Okay, is that okay? Everybody got that? Oh, I'm still recording this video, aren't I? So we need some room to write. There we go. Delete, delete. Okay, now if you remember that, what is profit? Profit is revenue that you, all the revenue, which is a fancy word for sales, right? Minus your costs, right? That's all it is. It's whatever you get in, cash register, and whatever costs there are. So the revenue, we already have the revenue. It's right here, right? We already got that. But what is the cost? The cost is from that cost function, which is that cost function up above. So all we do is we combine those, and we're going to get, first of all, the revenue, right, is Q squared. We did that from over here. Q squared, negative Q squared. It's negative 1 Q squared. Yeah, so negative 1 Q, yeah, my bad. I didn't put that on this revenue function. I apologize, guys. It's negative 1Q. I'm trying to fit it all in there. So it's negative 1Q or negative Q squared. Probably better to put negative 1 to keep that straight. I'm going to do this. Hold on. It's getting really sloppy over here. So again, it's the revenue is negative 1Q squared plus 50Q. Because that's the revenue, right? Now we have to subtract this, but the cost, and this is where it gets a little bit tricky. You're subtracting the whole cost. So you can put it in parentheses as 20Q plus 100. You're subtracting the whole thing. Okay, the next thing is, where are we at on time? Okay, still got some good time on that. The next thing is now we need to combine it because your equations typically are going to be in simplified form. So what can we combine? Well, first of all, I got to get this stuff out of the parentheses. And then we distribute the negative across that. So we're really subtracting 20Q and we're subtracting the 100. So on the net, it ends up being like that. All right, what can we combine? Well, we can combine these, right? So we get negative 1Q squared. 50Q minus 20Q is plus 30Q minus 100, okay? So I would do P as a function of Q equals, I'm just going to make it equal to this over here, okay? All right, so we're going to be doing a little bit of algebra, but that's okay. You guys can handle those. This is good practice anyway for the SBA coming up. But the good news is it gets easier from here, okay? The next three, the first two are kind of the little bit more algebra-based stuff. But now that you've got that, the other ones are pretty easy. So the marginal revenue, I don't know if you remember it from the previous page, all the marginal revenue is the demand function, but we have to do what with the slope of the demand function? You guys remember what we have to do? So marginal, I'll do that MR as a function of Q. It's the exact same function as the cost function, except instead of the slope being negative 1, it's going to be what? Negative 2. We got to double that slope plus 50. Okay? So I got to put this off to the side. Okay, so marginal revenue, all we have to do is get the cost function, and all we have to just change one thing. Negative 1 becomes negative 2. Okay, that's all there is. That's the only difference. And it's the same thing as the cost. So that was easier, right? Marginal cost is going to even be easier than that. What do we do to figure out the marginal cost on the previous one? It was 20. Well, all we have to do is look at that cost function, right? Which in this 20, right? So all we got to do is come down here and put marginal, or MC for marginal cost, I guess would be a good initial, equals 20. It's that simple. That's all there is to it. Marginal profit. Now that part, we're going to have to take the marginal revenue. So this one's going to be marginal revenue minus marginal cost. Well, we have marginal revenue. It's right there. So it's going to be negative 2Q plus 50 minus 20, or negative 2Q plus 30. That's marginal profit. So we just subtract those two from each other. All right, you guys are doing great. A lot of notes I know today. I probably won't quiz you guys on this tomorrow. I think what we'll do tomorrow is we'll just practice it on the next one. So just let's take a little bit more notes for the next 2 or 3 minutes, and then tomorrow bring this, and then I'll let you guys work on it in class tomorrow. Deal? But just so as long as you got these notes, you'll be able to do it, and that'll be your assignment for tomorrow. Tomorrow I'll give you an assignment for grades for notes taking this, and then tomorrow for doing the assignment. All right, we already know that when marginal cost equals marginal revenue equals marginal cost, that's when it's going to be equal. Well, we know what marginal cost is, right? It's this one right up here. So we're going to go, and we know what marginal revenue is, right? So we're going to go negative 2Q plus 50 equals 20. So we're setting marginal revenue equal to marginal cost. Now, if we did that, what would we do? We'd have to solve for it. We go minus 50, right? Minus 50. And then we have negative 2Q equals negative 30. And then we divide by negative 2, divide by negative 2. And what do you get? Q equals 15. Hey, that's what we got when we went through that table, right? Right? Isn't that the quantity we got when we went all the way through the table for the profit maximizing? It is, right? So by figuring out our marginal cost and our marginal revenue, we basically, and those are actually really simple. I'll be honest with you. The revenue, the revenue and the profit function were a little bit more involved, but the marginal revenue and the marginal cost are really easy to come up with. All you have to do with the marginal revenue is take the demand and change the slope to multiply the slope by negative 2, and you got that. Marginal cost, all you have to do is look at what the slope is, the 20, set them equal and solve, and you're done. Okay, so that was what how we find our quantity with equations, and that's what number 10 was doing, by the way. So we basically did number 10 and number 9 at the same time. Now you might say, well, what's the price? What's the price, right? Well, I should have asked for the price, shouldn't I? Oh, it does ask for the price, doesn't it? Well, what do? We take this 15 that we know as the quantity, and we take the demand function, right? And we go negative 15 plus 50. Where am I getting that again? I'm getting that from the demand function, right? And that equals 35, right? So if we know the quantity, all we got to do is put it in the demand function, and it'll tell us the price. So there you go, 35 and 15, right? Now one last thing, and then we'll wrap up. So what is the maximum profit going to be? Well, two ways you can do it, right? You can use the profit function because we've already got it. And you can plug in 15 in the equation, you can get the amount. Or you could kind of figure out, you could use the cost function if you wanted to. You could figure out, well, the revenue is going to be 35 times 15, right? That's going to be the revenue minus the cost is going to be, we can use the cost function to get that, right? We can go 20 times 15 plus 100. And I got to put that in brackets. You got to be really careful to put it in brackets because you're subtracting not only the 20 times 15, but you're subtracting 100. And that will give you the profit. And we already figured the maximum profit was $125, but those numbers should get us that amount, right? Okay, and that's it.